Today's event on policy discussions. Beyond fossil fuels, pathways for a clean energy transition in Pakistan, and with the two report launches, coal repurposing fired power plants and clean cooking solutions. So before we formally commence today's event, I would like to invite Dr. Khalid Waleed, who is the Senior Research Fellow at STPI, to formally set the scene. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Noor. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Before I request Michael and Dr. Sajid for formal special remarks, let me just say a few things on the report, on the landscape, and what is the scene right now in Pakistan, particularly after US-Iran war. We should admit that the coal utilization rate in Pakistan has increased after US-Iran war, which has, make this the discourse that we continuously formulated in past 3 or 4 years sort of diluted that, but still we need to look for the futuristic outcomes that these conjectures, these events have brought up. I will share with one example of FIFA World Cup. FIFA World Cup footballs are manufactured in Pakistan. The manufacturer is an international entity. The football name is Trionda. The manufacturer, they say in their policy that we have phased out coal from our manufacturing policy or supply chains, which means if there is coal use or utilization in Pakistan, particularly for industrial sector, particularly for export sector, in coming years, I think that exports would be adversely impacted, given that CBAM is coming, given that environmental compliance is coming. So we need to be very careful about that. So this is for the existing industries in Pakistan, the traditional export sectors for Pakistan. But for Pakistan to grow further, particularly to become an industrial state, Pakistan need to explore more out-of-the-box industrial options, particularly state-of-the-art data centers, particularly battery energy storage systems, green manufacturing, green growth. For that, I think Pakistan needs to either repurpose, early retire these existing power plants. There is a narrative that these power plants are expensive power plants, particularly the imported coal ones. But the local coal power plants, they are very emission intensive power plants. So we need to look for that as well. There are two cases. First, to keep the existing momentum of our exports, particularly the sport exports, textile exports, competitive, environmentally compliant, I think we need to consider options such as repurposing, early retirement. We have a very good report. Zainab and Noor has worked on that report as well with the support of UNESCAP. And secondly, to attract more investment, particularly in green data centers. We have seen that Gul Ahmed has initiated this inviting foreign investors into data centers in Pakistan, but the data centers not alone, they would not work in future. Green data center is the future. Unless those data centers are test for water stress, those data sets for, test for renewable energy electricity, I think we cannot make them a futuristic project. So we need to look for these options. What are different economic options? Repurposing, we think is a win-win situation for both the domestic policymakers as well as the financiers as well, particularly if you see it from Chinese financiers' point of view. Pakistan has delved into CPEC 1 to CPEC 2.0, which is more about business-to-business relationships. So when it comes to business-to-business relationships, they are very much aware of ESG, environment, social, and governance. So we need to incorporate that as well. So with that, I would request Noor to invite Dr. Sajid and Michael for their special introductory and special remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khalid, for such a detailed and thoughtful scene setting. Now, to formally begin the session, I would like to invite Dr. Sajid Amin, who is the Deputy Executive Director, Research SDPI, to deliver his welcome remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and very good morning. And I think it's afternoon and colleagues joining us from Bangkok. So good afternoon to all the colleagues, those who have joined us online from other parts. I think let me begin by appreciating UNESCAP. Actually, it comes with issues, the challenges that it tries to tackle and brings the issues on the table, which are generally ignored. And I think this is one of a very excellent contribution that UNESCAP has been making, and it has a long history of this context. And if we see, it is the same situation here, despite its very significant role and multi-sectoral, multi-dimensional contributions that clean cooking can make, it largely remains off the policy table. I mean, we speak on green energy transition, we speak on carbon markets much, but within that, clean green cooking, that remains missing. It supports your climate adaptation, directly linked to Pakistan's energy challenges and energy crisis, can ease it. It has very strong environmental contributions in Pakistan, particularly in terms of deforestation. I mean, this is one of the growing concern in Pakistan. And of course, on economy, because both in energy and climate change are our major macroeconomic challenges that really. So despite all this importance, there is much less discussion, even in civil society organizations, development sector, on clean green cooking. And if they are at a very small and lower level. So I think this is one of the biggest major contribution, significant contribution that UNESCAP and SDPI team is making to bring this issue on the table, which apparently looks a very small issue, marginal issue, and household issue. I forgot that actually this has a gender and health aspect as well, because in Pakistan, 90% of cooking, other than hotels, is generally the women who are doing in such a hot weathers, firewood and all this. So I think this is broadly a very major step for going beyond fossil fuels. And this is a key component as well. And I think there is excellent work going on globally in Africa. I was reading in Nairobi, Kenya, and most probably has its national action plan for clean cooking. So this is something that we can speak in. But I think I will make just two more points. The one is now the technological upgrades are catalyzing this shift or the transition towards clean cooking, electric cooking that is being done. They are providing affordable supply and safe solutions, modern solutions which are being provided. I think challenge will be scaling up. It's good to do small scale pilots, but in terms of scaling up, we will need a national, provincial strategies if we are doing in KP. And also, I think there is a possible space in terms of climate finance that can be directed towards this to support this one. And I think many of you might have read today's newspaper that climate levy now is 5 rupees per liter of increased 100%. Some part of it can be directed to support this clean and neat green cooking electric. And I think now when for example, also when energy is now being decentralized, you are being off the meter. So there is also a good options. The solars are providing now options that more window for this transition. So that can also be bring in here. And lastly, I think going forward, when you go beyond households now, there is a very major discussions going on. Also, the top of the pyramid, the cooking markets, which are in the food markets broadly, that can also be the part, this one. So with this, I think I'll thank all of you and to UNESCAP and SDPI team. So back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sajid, for such insightful remarks and for setting the tone for today's event. It's now my pleasure to invite Mr. Michael Williamson, Section Chief Energy Division, UNESCAP, for the opening remarks. So please, if you can.
Sure. Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So a very good morning, everybody. Many thanks for the opportunity to join you at this webinar. Particularly recognize Dr. Sajid Amin. Great to see you again, sir. And thank you for the hospitality that you extended to the ESCAP team back in November. So we were sitting in that very room just a couple of months ago where you are now. Great to see Shah Jahan Mirza, our dear colleague who we worked with several years ago in developing the SDG 7 roadmap for Pakistan. Great to see Mirza Sahab as well, and also Dr. Khalid, Ubaid, Zainab, of course, and Saira. Great to see all of the colleagues that we've worked with. So today, the agenda really has two elements. We're going to talk about the phase out of coal, or the early retirement of coal in Pakistan, but also clean cooking. So these are really two very important and interesting issues that we've managed to tie together in this phase of cooperation between ESCAP and SDPI. I think Dr. Amin's comments about clean cooking were quite full and quite descriptive. What I would add is that when I joined ESCAP Energy Division in 2018, I do remember at that time the thinking across the region that, you know, why do we talk about clean cooking as part of an energy conversation, as part of sustainable energy? Many people thought that issue was a rural development issue. But I think as Dr. Sajid pointed out, it is a core energy issue. It sort of ties together several elements: human health, well-being, gender, you know, social justice, climate change, and energy consumption. So it does bring together all of these things. And thanks to electric cooking, it kind of creates a solution space where we can tick off many of these objectives. When we think about electric cooking, it's good for the end user. It can reduce their costs. It reduces their exposure to smoke. It is good for the electricity system because it leverages all of the hard work done in extending the grid to rural areas. It provides another productive use of electricity. And it's also a decarbonization strategy because it's a much more efficient process using electricity than it is using LPG or firewood. So that's the reason that we have been particularly enthusiastic in working with different countries on electric cooking. We're also part of the Global Electric Cooking Coalition. So there's a global community of practitioners who are always asking us for stories from the Asia Pacific. They want to learn from what countries like Pakistan are doing and understand it better. So we're very pleased to be able to do this work in KP province, which is to some extent draws on other work that we've done in Bhutan, in Laos, in Fiji, and other places. So turning to the coal phase out, this is a particularly important issue for the Asia Pacific region. We are a little bit unique in that we are leaning forwards into coal as a region, whereas the other global regions are probably moving backwards. And there's a number of structural reasons for that. But now is a very good time to really build momentum in this area of coal phase out, because I think in the last 10 years, we've seen a huge acceleration in clean energy, in solar, in wind energy, in battery storage. So we have many of these cost-effective alternatives. Unfortunately, we are locked into coal to some extent because of infrastructure that was put in place in the last little while. And in the case of Pakistan, probably from about 10 years ago, the expansion of coal was commenced. And this is a particularly unique problem related to coal because these coal assets are very long-lived. Once they are built, we have a challenge of how to retire them early because there's so much money tied up in these long-lived assets. So we need to find pathways for coal phase down that work, and they need to work on several levels. So economically, in terms of the economics, the embedded value in the assets, technically in terms of the operation of the power system, but also politically and socially, because we need to factor in what is the impact on jobs, on communities, and livelihoods. So this requires a lot of innovation in our approach and a lot of deeper analysis. And I think those ideas are the genesis of our cooperation with SDPI on the issue of early phase out for Pakistan. So this is where the idea of repurposing comes in. And the paper sets this out in very good detail. So I don't want to go into it too much now because we're going to hear from that in the next session about what the paper has concluded on the issue of repurposing. But if we are successful in doing this, in adding momentum to the coal phase down in Pakistan, it's going to help in a lot of areas. It's going to help, of course, the circular debt crisis. It will help Pakistan achieve its climate goals set out in the NDCs. And I would say that Pakistan is not alone. There are many other countries in the region that are facing similar challenges. And also there are examples of countries that have been successful or partially successful in this effort of phasing down coal. But I think in each case, the context is really important. Every country has the same basic challenge, but the context or the set of circumstances that they're dealing with are different. So the phase down of coal in Australia or the Philippines has a different characteristic to that in Pakistan. So that means that the solutions must be tailored individually. And I think that's the beauty of our approach of working with SGAP and SDPI in partnership, because we have the Pakistan-specific experience and we can combine that with experiences and ideas from across the Asia-Pacific region. And in fact, this November in Xi'an in China, we're holding the International Forum on Energy for Sustainable Development. This is an annual conference of all of the 5 UN regional commissions. We're going to have a session on coal phase down. We'd love to present this report at that forum too, to share the ideas from Pakistan with policymakers from around the world. So I think it's really an honor and a privilege to work with SDPI again. Our partnership goes back a long, long way. We think that we have many, many years of partnership ahead of us. And I'd like to thank you all for putting this seminar together. And I wish us all a very successful discussion of these ideas for today. Thank you very much, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williamson, for your valuable remarks. And yes, you have rightly highlighted that how the rapid expansion of renewable energy is bringing new challenges for the conventional coal assets. So with that, we'll now move to the technical presentation. And we'll be pleased to invite Ms. Zainab Babar, who is the researcher at SDPI, to deliver the technical presentation. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Noor. Okay, so to begin with, you all know that Pakistan's coal repurposing have a strong case, as Dr. Khalid have mentioned, as Michael have mentioned, that there is a strong case for repurposing. Why this repurposing is being done around the world? There are a number of other reasons. Globally, countries are doing repurposing because their coal fleet is becoming inefficient or have kind of reached the end of their life cycle. So there are other reasons that they are doing repurposing. But what is different for Pakistan is that Pakistan's coal fleet is quite young. Like it's around 8 to 9 years average. But the major issue that we are facing because of this coal fleet is that number one is that it's underutilized. And that underutilization is kind of linking with the capacity payments that are increasing every year. The second major financial burden that is basically coming from this coal fleet is that we are using imported coal for power generation from these power plants, which is very costly, which is kind of linking the increasing tariff that we all are kind of experiencing these days. If we have a look at the numbers, you can see that 18.9% of the national capacity payments were paid in fiscal year 2025. And if we look at the other side of the picture, the utilization rate of these plants, we can see that they're kind of running at a utilization of 27 to 50%, which is quite low from the capacity that they have. If we look at the other number, that is around 8 billion, 7.69 exactly, that's the total capacity payments that were being paid to the plants. They were not even producing capacity. And why we are paying this capacities? Because we have signed the PPAs with the plant owners that either we use these capacity or not, we are bound to pay this payment to them. If we go back to 10 years ago, that how these plants came into energy mix and what was the planning behind these. Around 2015, Pakistan was experiencing huge demand supply shortfall. At that time, what we needed the most was to kind of narrow down this demand supply gap and provide electricity and generate electricity. The best suitable decision at that time was to kind of create power plants that could generate electricity and introduce into the system to meet that increasing load shedding and the increasing demand supply gap. So at that time, these plants proved to be kind of facilitating support to the energy sector by providing electricity. But what happened next is that with each passing year, the first issue was resolved that we have now excess capacity in the system, but this excess capacity have a huge cost over our energy sector. One of the major challenge that our energy sector have is these capacity payments, which not only affects the government's government finances, but also the consumer as well. One issue is linked with the imported coal, but what comes next is what if we switch to the local coal. If we go deep into the cost analysis of local coal and internalize the externalities that this local coal have, you can see that the local coal is 2.5 times expensive than the imported coal, because there is a number of health costs, hidden costs that are coming in the form of health costs, transportation costs that are currently not incurred into this. So this is also a major issue that we are observing. What comes next is that where from this idea of repurposing is coming. It's not like this is just an idea and we thought that it's needed. It's kind of linked with our national targets and commitments. We know that in NDC 3.0, we have committed that we will be reducing our 50% emissions by 2030. And out of these emissions, we have 17% unconditional and 33% conditional. So to achieve these targets, along with the other green investments, attract green investments and ARE policy targets, we need to kind of have a transition plan for our power sector, or more specifically for coal power plants, because we need to make a long-term plan that how we're going to make this transition work. We know that IGCEP have certain retirement scenarios in it, but these scenarios are not linked with decarbonization. One thing we can do is that link our IGCEP with the decarbonization. We have least cost scenarios in it. We have long-term roadmap in IGCEP. If we make the decarbonization, integrate the decarbonization into this plan, it can also kind of help in the overall transition plan. As I mentioned earlier, the capacity charges is kind of elephant in the room. You can see from this graph that circular debt is continuously experiencing an increasing trend. In 2025, the government kind of did some bank restructuring of payments and kind of reduced the 2.1 trillion amount of circular debt. But what happened next is that it's just within a 1 year time frame, we are kind of almost back on the same number. So there's a strong need that we need to see that how we can renegotiate or restructure these capacity payments so that the circular debt issue can be resolved. To resolve the issue, we have seen that what other countries are doing, because repurposing is being done globally. From global case studies, what we came in to know is that there are certain technologies that people are following, especially in Canada, Germany, UK, and US. These technologies are majorly solar, wind, pump storage, biomass, and data centers, and synchronous condensers. All countries have a different case studies because one option cannot, one solution that is suitable for one country is not necessarily suitable for other country. So but one thing that was common in all the countries was whenever they were using repurposing, one of the major factor they had was the use of the brownfield, reuse of the brownfield land and the water rights and the high voltage grid interconnection. These are the major assets of the existing coal plants that can be easily repurposed for when you're converting to these technologies. If we come into the lessons from our regional countries from Asia, basically, we can have a look at the Philippines, India, and Indonesia, that what they are doing. One thing that we can learn from them is that they got external finance. What Pakistan also feels that if we know that our economy is not that strong that we can support huge amount that we need for repurposing, we definitely need a source of external finance to support this transition. But the lesson that we have from these countries is that external finance alone cannot solve the issue. We need policies from the country, policies within the country to solve this issue, because once the PPAs are kind of restructured, or if once there are some national policies that support this transition, then there is external finance that can further facilitate or support on the financial side. Based on this case studies, global and regional case studies, we came up with 5 technical pathways that we find could be a possible option for Pakistan. Number 1 being the solar PV, second as the secondary synchronous condensers, third being the best battery energy storage system, then the green data centers, and then we have green hydrogen and ammonia technology. These are the technical options that we can convert existing coal plants into these. So now we have the technical options, but we don't know what is the suitability of our coal plants or coal infrastructure is with these options. For this, what we did is that we designed a multi-criteria decision analysis. There were different indicators in it which were kind of given some scoring to analyze this. We gave 45% weightage to the grid and infrastructure use because this is one of the most important point. What it shows is that the point of interconnection can be used for these studies. We can use the existing transmission network for the studies, and we can use the land for the studies. After applying this analysis, what we came to know that the most suitable option as per the scoring we have is BESS, battery energy storage system. Secondly, we have synchronous condensers. Then there is a suitability of solar PV and data centers. Based on this MCDA, what we did was we chose the 2 priority options, that was BESS and solar PV, and we did a cost analysis of these options. One thing that can be seen in this slide, the cost analysis, is the total turnkey cost. What this cost is basically showing is the economies of scale, that when you're increasing the megawatt integration into the system, the overall cost is kind of declining. If we see that there is a general perception in Pakistan that batteries are kind of expensive, this is not wrong. Batteries are expensive. There are import duties, there are risk premium. But one thing that needs to be understood is that though they are expensive, but if we weigh the benefits, they outweigh the costs in the long run. If you can have a look at the right side of the slide, it kind of shows the benefits that we're going to have if we choose the option of installing or repurposing the existing coal plants with battery energy storage system. It says that in the next 10 years, if we install BESS, we are going to suppress the price suppression up to a level of $46 million. With this, we are going to have 180 million NPV avoided generation capacity. We will be having 288 to 253 million of amount in value of lost load. This is value of lost load is not only showing the amount of electricity that is being produced but not used, but also the amount of loss that is being incurred by the industries, by the other sectors in the economy when we are facing blackouts and load shedding. So this is very important, not only for the energy sector, but for the stability of economy as well. Because energy sector is basically the pillar of our economy. If we can now move towards the next technology, that is the solar PV. we can see that by converting to solar, we can, introduce a capex reduction of 97.6%. We can also get savings of USD 34 million. That's a huge number that basically would come from the imported fuel cost. And we can avoid 5 billion USD in terms of avoiding capacity payments. One thing to note here is that solar is one of the most feasible options. Why? Because the ROI, POI, that is the point of interconnection that the coal plants still have, they can be exactly used in this installment of solar. We can also use the transmission line that coal is using for solar. But when we were analyzing both these cases side by side, one was that we are going to have capacity repurposing. That is, we are going to repurposing the coal power plants with solar plants. Second was we're going to have repurposing of capacity to storage case. In that case, we were going to convert coal to BESS. Both these scenarios were feasible, but if we talk about the ideal scenario, considering Pakistan's case particularly, the main point is that we have grid challenges. We all know that our grid is like kind of experiencing a number of challenges. And if we only focus on solar power generation, there are going to be a number of issues because the solar's intermittency nature, because the solar is the non-dispatchable. So the scenario that comes next and comes up as the most feasible option was, what if we make a hybrid system where we have solar, we have battery, and we have synchronous condenser. For solar, what we can do is that we can use the existing infrastructure that could be kind of repurposed. Then for synchronous condensers, we have the generators, mechanical generators that can be kind of converted into these synchronous condensers. So this was the most feasible option after our analysis that comes into final point. Then now we have chosen the best suitable option. Now comes the question that, okay, we know that this is the best option, but how do we know that which plant is the most suitable for this option? To address this question, we have made a priority index. What this priority index is kind of showing is different pillars. That is the technical viability, economic and contractual system value, environmental impact, and social just transition and institutional readiness. Just a second. So in this technical viability pillar, what we can do is that every plant will be kind of go through a complete screening process. In this screening, when we'll be focusing on technical viability, we will be checking the plant's age, its heat rate and efficiency value, its equipment condition, its retrofitting compatibility, the land area, grid interconnection strength. After technical viability of the plant, we'll move towards the next economic and contractual pillar. For this screening, we will have to see the PPA expiry timeline or the PPA timelines, the O&M cost that plant is incurring, the capacity payment burden that is coming from each plant, and the outstanding debt and fuel price exposure, because without restructuring of debt, you cannot repurpose into any other option. If we go to the system value, it will focus on the location criticality for grid stability. Either a location is suitable for solar or not, or if we can install other options that we have. For environmental impact, we will see the emissions intensity of the existing infrastructure that is being already installed. What is their environmental impact, and how can we kind of, what other changes would be required. Then the social and just transition component, that how much of workforce is currently being employed there, and what is the potential of converting this workforce through reskilling into the repurposing plant or site. Then one of the most important point to see is that institutional readiness. If the stakeholder willingness and if there is a regularity, clarity about this, and what is the complexity of converting this plant into the other option of repurposing. After going this screening analysis, you have chosen the plant that which you're going to repurpose. Then comes the next phase of implementation. For implementation, we have made this phased repurposing roadmap. We all know that repurposing is not an easy task, especially sorry, I haven't changed this slide. Okay. Then come the phased repurposing roadmap. This kind of, we know that it's not an easy task. For this, we have like PPAs, we have regulatory frameworks. It's not easy. So what in the near term, in the next 3 years, we can do is that pilot a hybrid hub at least 1 or 2 power plants. We can do PPA renegotiations. We have different financial instruments that can kind of help to restructure the debt. One possible option is we can go for debt for renewables, debt swaps. In that way, one facilitating government we can also introduce a one facilitating government facility that would be an energy transition unit with a mandate to support this transition, overall transition of the power sector. In the medium term, we can scale this up a bit. We can then introduce these pilot that we done in the near term with 3 to 5 sites and convert the turbines to synchronous condensers. And we can also work on the operationalization of CTBCM through ancillary services. And we can work on mobilizing the green finance through sustainability linked bonds and green sukuk bonds. In the long term, what we can do is that to make a plan to kind of make a full coal to clean transition, that there use other options as well, that how we're going to do this. But for we can support the grid through with inertia from repurposed assets, monetize the USD 1.22 billion in cumulative carbon credits with the Verra methodology. We have calculated this comes around 1.2 billion in next 20 years. So after all this analysis, the certain policy recommendations that we believe should be kind of imposed to kind of should be followed to support this transition are we need to establish an integrated energy policy secretariat with mandate for repurposing. We also need to integrate the carbon finance and decarbonization into IGCEP to make IGCEP more impactful or to help the transition goals, national transition goals. We need to introduce stability tariffs. NEPRA should create a new ancillary service tariff for grid stability. We need to initiate PPA renegotiation. We know that this process has already been renegotiated, but we haven't received much of in positive terms, but haven't received much positive response in that. But we need to find ways that how they can be negotiated effectively. So we have some flexibility in those agreements. Then we should, this is also a work in progress, that is the launch of Energy Transition Investment Plan. We need to have this for Pakistan, where we can have sector-wise financing requirements, that which sector needs how much of the finance for transitioning to green and clean development, and specifically for coal to clean transition. We need a financial framework where risks are being segregated, because we already know that these investments have kind of become a stranded assets. So how we can convert these stranded assets to renewable investments. We know that Pakistan have introduced their green taxonomy, but for implementation of this green taxonomy, we need to build capacity around this. Also, we need sovereign green bond diversification. And we need the mandatory advanced meter infrastructure for all new installations to enable the virtual power plants and capture the USD 46 million suppression. We also need zero rate based import duties. And we need a mandatory just transition reserve, because when we are going to repurpose these plants, there are going to have social impact on the people that are currently being involved or employed in those plants. We need an ancillary services market for effective transition, and there should be technology transfer workshops, so we can learn from the people that have kind of implemented this repurposing and understand this. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much for your time. Over to you, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zainab, for such an insightful and excellent presentation, I must say, and for highlighting the key highlights of the study. With this, we will now move to our techno-economic feasibility and coal asset repurposing roundtable discussion. And we are very pleased to have with us our distinguished speakers. Mr. Shahjahan Mirza Saab, former Managing Director, Private Power Infrastructure Board. Mr. Kamil Maqsood from Power Planning and Monitoring Company. Dr. Hasnat Shah, Executive Director, CPAC Center of Excellence, and of course, Mr. Badr Alam Saab, CEO, Policy Research Institute for Equitable Development. So, sir, we'll start with you, Mr. Shahjahan Saab. So, sir, as we know that many countries are now opting for negotiated buyouts and reductions in return on equity in order to facilitate, the coal transition. So, given your extensive experience with the IPPs, so what do you think, which approach is most feasible and practical in case of Pakistan?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank and congratulate STPI, and particularly Zainab has made excellent presentation, giving various options and analysis that what has been happening to these coal power plant and what are the possible way forward and what are the basically pros and cons of taking that policy. So I think in Pakistan context, as I think partially mentioned by Zainab also, probably there's no one solution. We need to recognize that this is Pakistan imported coal plant fleet is very young. So all of them still have lenders left. All of them has investment. They all have long-term 30 years PPAs. So that's, I think that is the factors which make it a bit difficult. And on top of that, these are not the purely commercial agreement, though these obviously based on the commercial term, there are PPA. But again, these PPA are backed by the implementation agreement, which is the government signed agreement by PPIB on behalf of government of Pakistan and government guarantees for payment. So I think that is an added complication in this whole process from the perspective of Pakistan and the China-Pakistan economic corridor. So these are basically processed in a G2G arrangement. So that is another sensitivity which we need to keep in mind when we talk about phasing out, phasing down, or repurposing of coal power plant. So when we look at these dynamics, I don't think there's only one model which can solve the problem, because buyout is really very difficult in terms of very limited fiscal space in Pakistan, already deficit budget, circular debt, so on and so forth. So we have very limited, we are under the IMF program. So we have very limited room actually to raise that kind of funding that we can talk about the straight away that we can buy out these power plants. But again, if we look at the other side, that we are talking about the renegotiations of the PPA, reduction in the ROE, O&M, and other things. Again, I think that's not only going to solve the problem, because the amounts are so huge that these kind of tweaking will not make a major dent in these payments. So we need to look at probably a hybrid type of approach where we can do the both works. Probably, as has been pointed out, we need to do our homework and the analysis that what is basically the optimal, or what is the first plant which should go into this exercise of repurposing or phasing out or phasing down, looking at various dynamics, like the first of all, the grid flexibility and grid reliability. I think that's the most critical thing. And then we need to see that where we have actually limited data. If we look at in these three power plants, the Sahiwal is the oldest one. So their lenders period is probably now two years, or maybe 2 to 3 years. So these kind of factors, when we consider, we need to see that which plant we opt for early retirement. For that, obviously, there's a lot of things to do. We need to take all the stakeholders on board. Obviously, the grid is the main stakeholder, because they need to keep the grid actually reliable and flexible for operation. And these plants, whatever they operate, I think they provide electricity. We're talking about 15 to 20% of the capacity utilization. But again, when we actually take take them out of the grid, we need to provide these electricity through some other sources. We need to come up with the alternate plan also. Then, of course, there are stakeholders with the local communities, the employees of these power plant, the investors and the lenders, the two governments are involved. So we need to work a proper plan and make some feasibility studies actually looking at all the options. But again, the most critical thing will be that who will finance when we reach one of the options. Actually, I'm also working with the Ministry of Climate Change and one or two international institutions actually to look into this coal to clean energy. And as you have proposed, we are trying to set up a specific unit, technical assistance unit, either within the Ministry of Energy or within the Ministry of Climate Change. So that is another exercise which is going on. So that's why I'm saying this is a very timely initiative. So, but I think in this context, first of all, we need to talk basically at the government to government level as a starting point, that there should be buyout. There are some discussions, but very, very initial informal discussions about that you might be knowing. But we need to start with that because these are basically under G2G framework agreement. Then we need to take to the investors into confidence that what we are going to do, and we need to create a model which is sort of a win-win position. We can't say tomorrow or after a month or 6 months to these investors and lenders, okay, we are closing, shut down this power plant, you go out. So that is not going to resolve the problem. We need to create a win-win situation, that what is the benefit for them in terms of going out. We might have to in some cases where there's genuine reason, we might have pay out some of the investment to them. So to compensate that, then we'll be needing additional investment for the renewable or battery energy storage or whatever option we see that is the best for each of the power plant. So this solution will be different in my understanding for each of the power plant, depending upon its location, that where it is located within the grid, what is the dispatch mean. If as I know currently, the hub power generation, which is in the Balochistan, that is the least dispatched power plant. There are grid constraints, there are demand requirements because our grid is not so robust. So I think all these factors need to be looked into, analyzed, and a policy and strategy should be made. And finally, the financing is very, very critical. So unfortunately, Pakistan has not been able to avail any green GEF funding, any green energy funding, concessional loan. There are JETPs, there are ETMs. So there are so many things which are available in the market, and even our neighbors have availed that, but we have not been able to avail that. And in that context, I think we were talking the other day also, our main weakness is that we don't have the expertise and the expertise in the project preparation. We don't have dedicated institutions which prepare project for taking these projects to these institutions. We have projects, we have venues, but we are not able to prepare a proper report and the study which could be presented to these institutions like Green Energy Fund and for ETM and investment. So I think these are the area where we need to work, and I fully agree that, as I said, we are working also that we need to have some dedicated units, some dedicated department within some ministry or at a relevant forum which could actually work dedicatedly on this thing, because this is not a sort of part-time job. I appreciate that STPI, Pak China Institute, some other Pride and Renewable First. So there are many names, the think tanks which are working very seriously on this aspect. But unless the government actually buy out this idea and they really set up some institution, some mechanism where actually they can work and take it forward, because these recommendations, if they are not implemented, so they just basically exercise in futile, just reporting. So I think this is mainly the thing. The carbon emission, the transition, now there were carbon credits, now there are transition credits also. So we can avail the transition credit, we can avail the green energy for financing. So there are venues, but again, the fundamental thing is a cohesive approach, an institution which is leading this whole exercise. Obviously, the work you people are doing in the think tanks, that's really very, very helpful for the government actually to give a good starting point. So thank you. I think I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, sir. And you have already partly answered my second question. So I'll now move to the our next panelist, Mr. Kamil Maqsood from Power Planning and Monitoring Company. So, sir, given the fact that there's rapid solar uptake in Pakistan and how it's influencing the power demand from demand side management, so what do you think? And specifically, how is PPMC adapting long-term system planning to account this transformation?
कि जो प्लानिंग है वो सपोर्टिंग रोल में पीपीएफसी डज दैट, बट उसका मेन उसका मैंडेट नहीं है। जो क्वांटम है एट दिस पॉइंट इन टाइम, एक तो उस पे भी डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियन एग्जिस्ट करता है विद इन द, बट आर एक्सरसाइज टोल्ड अस दैट द क्वांटम स्टैंड्स एट around 20 gigawatts, and the exercise was done last year and I think it will be done again in this year as well. So वो एक इंस्टॉल कैपेसिटी के बराबर तो वो नंबर से तो वी वुड डिसएग्री, बट एक अच्छा खासा मोमेंटम इज देयर, क्वांटम इज देयर। उसकी सिग्निफिकेंस ये है कि नाउ व्हेन वी हैव दिस नंबर तो वो प्लानिंग प्रोसेस के अंदर इट इज बीइंग इनकॉर्पोरेटेड, एंड प्रोक्योरमेंट जो फ्यूचर है वो उस हिसाब से उसको अलाइन किया जाएगा। एट दिस पॉइंट इन टाइम थर्मल प्रोक्योरमेंट तो नहीं हो रही। C5 ने आना है, हाइडल है, वो लॉन्ग लीड टाइम्स है और वो पिछली उसकी कमिटमेंट्स हैं जो एग्जिस्ट करती हैं। सो प्लानिंग तो इस क्वांटम से इस तरह इन्फ्लुएंस हो गया। वन पॉइंट यही जो मैंने अभी आई रेज्ड इट अर्लियर एज वेल कि आवर अंडरस्टैंडिंग इज कि क्वांटम इतना भी ज़्यादा नहीं है, इट्स स्टिल सिग्निफिकेंट अमाउंट। And regarding the progress, I think we need to take that into account. Abhi, at this point in time, the share of clean energy stands at around 55% of our mix. We have included the off-grid and conservative estimates of off-grid and on-grid solar as well. And it is expected to reach, as per the IGSF projections, to 90% by 2035. Thermal का बिल्कुल ही there will be no thermal procurement afterwards, और C5 and Hydel will come into play 2035 तक। वो तकरीबन 10 से 11 हज़ार की मेगावाट की कैपेसिटी है। नंबर आई मे हैव इट, तकरीबन 11-12 हज़ार मेगावाट ने जो 2035 तक आना है। सो दैट इज the update part. Regarding coal repurposing, जामशोरो की स्टडी अभी कंप्लीट हुई है, कन्वर्जन इन लोकल कोल, एंड उसकी जो एक्सपेक्टेशन तो यही है 3.2 अराउंड बिलियन US dollars will be saved over Jamshoro Unit 1. And the plan is कि once this it is found feasible by the end of the study कि feasible है और इसकी environmental implications को भी manage किया जा सकता है, and आफ्टर दैट इसके अगेंस्ट में फिर जो सीपेक के बाकी भी हैं उनको भी कन्वर्ट किया जाएगा वंस दिस इज डन। सो ये पार्ट है। रिगार्डिंग द कॉस्ट ऑफ लोकल कोल, देखिए वो माइंस की जो डेवलपमेंट हो रही है तो वो क्रॉसओवर मेरा ख्याल है कोई इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड अराउंड क्लोज टू 30 के वो इंटरनेशनल क्रॉसओवर कहीं हो जाएगा। इन द बिगिनिंग ऑफ इट वो तो इट विल बी ऑन द हायर साइड, प्रॉब्ली उसमें लोकल करेंसी का भी शायद आपको वो एक बेनिफिट इवेंचुअली मिल जाए। सो वो तो एक उसकी हो गया। बाकी रिगार्डिंग द बेस्ट पार्ट, ऑलरेडी 2-3 प्रोजेक्ट्स आई हैव मेंशन्ड इट अर्लियर एज वेल, वो डिप्लॉय हो रहे हैं। इन एनी केस आई थिंक वी शुड नॉट गो फॉर ऑप्शंस जो हमारे लिए लाइबिलिटीज क्रिएट करें। जिस तरह सोलर एक कंज्यूमर ड्रिवन हो गया है, आई थिंक देयर आर ऑप्शंस इन एरियाज जिनको हम टैप करें, वर्चुअल पावर प्लांट उन एरियाज को टैप करें, वी कैन यूज इट, और वो आप बेसिकली एक स्टेट के लिए कोई लाइबिलिटी क्रिएट नहीं हो सकती होगी, और उसके एनेबलिंग एनवायरनमेंट के अंदर AMI लगेगा, रेगुलेटरी फैसिलिटेटिव रेगुलेटरी पॉलिसी एंड रेगुलेटरी इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हैं, वो दैट पार्ट इज मिसिंग। लेकिन ये है कि AMI एट दिस पॉइंट इन टाइम, अभी मैंने फ्रेश डाटा मंगवाया है, बहुत ज़्यादा फ्रेश भी नहीं है, 1.9 मिलियन लग चुका है, AMI मीटर्स लग चुके हैं। आइस्को इज एट द टॉप ऑफ द लिस्ट, उसके बाद गेपको है और लिस्को है एंड ऑल दैट। सो देयर इज प्रोग्रेस देयर, और इन एरियाज के अंदर ओके बिहाइंड द मीटर बैटरी भी है, दैट वो क्वांटम भी यूज किया जा सकता है। योर ये जो आपकी इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल है, दैट कैन बी इंटीग्रेटेड एज वेल। So I think अगर सोलर का क्वांटम बहुत बढ़ चुका है तो मेरा ख्याल है इन एरियाज को टैप इन करने की जरूरत है इंस्टेड ऑफ क्रिएटिंग अनदर लाइबिलिटी। और एक बात जो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि जब भी अगर आप यूटिलिटी स्केल भी लगा रहे हैं या बिहाइंड द मीटर भी है, एंसिलरी जो मार्केट होती है उसका वो एक छोटी मार्केट होती है। इसमें अगर वो आर्बिट्राज करता है यूटिलिटी स्केल में, एनर्जी आर्बिट्राज में पड़ता है, तो जो रेगुलेटर का लेंस होगा उसको देखने का, ग्रिड सपोर्ट के लिए कोई लगा रहा है, दैट्स अनदर स्टोरी। जिस वक्त फ्रिक्वेंसी रेगुलेशन से वो आर्बिट्राज में जाएगा तो लाइसेंसिंग रिजीम चेंज हो जाएगी और वो लेंस रेगुलेटर का भी उसको देखने का बिल्कुल चेंज हो जाएगा। सो एक ये ट्रिकी क्वेश्चन है और इसमें गैप एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, हाउ वी कैन डू इट, क्योंकि एंसिलरी पे रिलाय करके फ्रिक्वेंसी रेगुलेशन और प्राइमरी जो रिजर्व होता है उस पर करके जो रेवेन्यू जनरेशन है या वो इतनी नहीं होती कि वो आप रिकवर कर लें, अनलेस एंड अनटिल आप कोई उसके बैटरी के रिस्पॉन्स रेट के ऊपर उसको कोई आउट ऑफ द मार्केट जो है वो उसको सेटल करें या उसको कोई एडवांटेज पे करें। सो ये चीजें हैं दैट वी नीड टू लुक इन, टेक इनटू अकाउंट। एट द एंड ऑफ द डे वी हैव टू मैनेज दैट सोलर ग्रिड की स्टेबिलिटी को मेंटेन करना है। और मेरा ख्याल है वो अगर बैटरी की तरफ भी जाना है, सो ये एरियाज हैं जिनको इंटीग्रेट किया जा सकता है। एनेबलिंग एनवायरनमेंट में AMI है, उसकी प्रोग्रेस मैंने आपको आई हैव शेयर्ड इट विद यू। रिगार्डिंग द रिनेगोशिएशन ऑफ PPAs, मेरा ख्याल है जूस आई हैव शेयर्ड इट अर्लियर, वो जूस इसमें से निकलना था वो निकल चुका है। और फर्दर इस एरिया में भी मुझे नहीं लगता इट शैटर्स द इन्वेस्टर कॉन्फिडेंस। इस एरिया को मेरा ख्याल है बाकी दूसरी एवेन्यूज को भी छेड़ के मैनेज किया जा सकता है। इस एरिया में दोबारा मेरा नहीं ख्याल है इट शुड बी डन। आई थिंक जितना जूस था उसमें से वो निकल चुका है एंड वी शुड लुक फॉरवर्ड, एंड दिस इज जस्ट माई अंडरस्टैंडिंग क्योंकि आई हैव सीन सम ऑफ द इंफॉर्मेशन रिगार्डिंग दिस। आई थिंक द मैक्स हैज बीन मैक्स्ड आउट रिगार्डिंग द रीनेगोशिएशन। फ्यू एक आधी चीज है रिगार्डिंग दी IP सेक्रेटेरिएट, वी एक्सपेक्ट के उसमें एक बॉटलनेक आ गया था। इट्स विद द कैबिनेट कमेटी ऑन एनर्जी। बॉटलनेक ये आ गया था कि कुछ सूबों ने कमेंट्स नहीं किए थे, तो वो इट केम बैक फ्रॉम द CCOE और वो वी हैड टू सेंड इट बैक अगेन। तो वी एक्सपेक्ट के 15 जुलाई तक दैट मीटिंग विल टेक प्लेस और वो IP सेक्रेटेरिएट भी फॉर्मली उसके बाद वी विल अनाउंस इट। मैंडेट करना रीपर्पसिंग, देखिए दिस इज वन ऑफ द ऑप्शंस। मैंडेट तो नहीं किया जा सकता, व्हाट वी कैन डू इज कि अंडर IP वी कंसिडर इट एज एन एरिया, या इसको एक्सप्लोर किया जा सकता है अमंग अदर ऑप्शंस। सो दिस इज व्हाट आई had to say on this.
Thank you so much, sir, for rightly pointing out the possible options that Pakistan can avail. And again, you've already answered my second question, so we'll now move to our next panelist, Dr. Hasnat Shah, who's the Executive Director, CPAC Center of Excellence. So, sir, as we know that Pakistan's modern coal fleet was fast-tracked as early harvest. So what do you think that how Pakistan can manage with its Chinese partners to sort of reframe this conversation around these assets from phase out to mutually coal to clean transition? Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Once again, I'm really thankful for the invitation and such a wonderful event you people manage over here. Most of the points which were presented by Zainab and Shahjahan Saab, I will go and will build on this. You use the word phase out, which is a very dangerous word when you are dealing with G2G, which is probably not possible because there is diplomatic dead end, and we have to look into coal to clean transition. So that will be far more better option, which we can go with that. Within Chinese framework, you mentioned, if we look recently, China launched their 15th five-year plan, and their focus is completely on green development. They are pioneers in many things. They want to be the leader in green development, and then they can work on that. They can provide a lot of facilities. What we need to do is this: we need to fix our house first. We need to understand that what are our requirements. As Shah Jahan Saab mentioned, that it is not possible we go back again to them after 5 years and we tell them we need again another negotiation. So what we need to do, first thing is this: we have to provide from coal to clean transition within the CPEC institutional framework and 15th five-year plan of China. So both of them are providing us corridors, opportunities, because in CPEC 2, the focus is on B2B. So why not we transit these kind of facilities which we are using at a moment and which have a lot of liabilities, environmental footprint impacts, and we deal with them as a business, as a win-win situation, to transit them for green hydrogen, for producing BESS, battery storage system, etc. So all these things we can do, and we can invite them to start a business, a new business within the given paradigm. But again, we have to look at what are our requirements. We have to be very careful in the long run, what we need in the long run, because what we wanted in the short term fired back. We had IPPs, we had these coal plants, we were under compulsions. We decided very haphazardly, I think, in the past. So this time we have the luxury to learn from our own, like some sort of shortcomings, and we come up with a very clear idea that what we want to do. And then we can sit with them, we can discuss with them, we can find business opportunities, how we can transform and how we can move from this phase outward to coal to clean transition. So there is possibility, because they are going to new areas in Green Corridor. Their institution, state-owned institution, Renmin Yinhang, which is their central bank, all of them are supporting these green transitions. Particularly, they are focused on BRI related projects. Why? Because they want to inculcate, they want to include, they want to make it the green as an important part of all those projects which are the part of BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. And obviously CPEC is one of that. And luckily, we have one of the corridor on which Saqib is currently working is Green Corridor, energy, green energy, all those things, all those points which we are looking. So what is important here is this: rather than go for some sort of litigations or paying a lot of money for capacity in terms of capacity payment, why not to build a joint working group? And then we talk on that joint working group that how we can transit, so the Chinese investors, the Chinese side, the Chinese government may not feel that we are cornered on investment, because we are very good partners, we are iron brothers, we have to take care of one another, particularly at the time when China wants to transit from the traditional structure to the green leadership. So I think Chinese institutions, Chinese government, Chinese central bank, all of them are ready. What we need a proper joint working group, particularly dedicated how to go from this coal to clean transition. So that is something, but again, long term, we need to keep them in our mind. And we need one thing more. Most of our discussions were and still are on G2G. We need B2B, because CPEC 2 is completely focused on industrialization, on B2B. So which kind of industrialization in green sector we can bring them, and we can relocate the existing facilities without going for capacity payment and generating businesses opportunities for local as well as for international investors. So again, I want to use which they call it that Shuangyin, we call that win-win. So that is a very important thing. Thank you so much.
I do have a follow-up question for you. If we exclusively talk about the financial instruments like Green Panda bonds, which are now launched recently, and the Chinese Green Climate Fund. So what do you think, can we utilize them to offset the compensation cost for the investors for such green transition?
Particularly as Shah Jahan Saab mentioned, and probably we heard somewhere else as well, that fiscally we are not in such a condition which we go, and definitely we will go for this transition to get financing. So from where we get, as I mentioned, that their central bank is ready because they want to promote their green products, their green exports, so they want to work on it. International institutions, multilateral institutions such as AIIB, Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank, they can be partially a guarantor on these things. We have Silk Road Fund, which they have a green window for that, which we can utilize. But the most important point is not this, that whether we find some financing or not, although we have a huge constraint locally. The thing is this, that we come up with a solid position. We come up with a solid solution that what we are going to do. So if we go for that, we provide them that facility, they understand that we are serious about the issues. We have number of supporters, we have number of institutions within China, as I mentioned, that even they are working now on SCO banks. They are working on number of other institutions which are completely focused and they want to encourage this green transition, green development. And there is a South-South collaboration in China on green transition, and they want to finance those kind of projects. So we can involve them and we can tell them that this is an opportunity where the business can come and they can give the guarantee. And on the basis of that, we can move forward and we can sort out our financial constraint issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for highlighting the diverse financial portfolio that Pakistan can avail. With that, we'll now move to our next panelist, Mr. Badr Alam, CEO Pride. Sir, if we talk about the macro level fiscal debate, and especially from the social point of view, that the communities who are worst hit and who live close to these plants like Sahiwal, like Thar and Port Qasim. So how do these get affected when we target that certain coal plant is to be repurposed?
Firstly, thank you for inviting me to this very important forum. And thank you, Dr. Saab and Kamil Saab, for highlighting the government's point of view on this. I think before we start thinking about how will these repurposing efforts will affect the communities, we first need to talk about how the communities are being affected now. And I'll not go into detail. Shahjahan Saab know my position on that. And I've been talking about it in great details. Today, I'll just highlight two things. One is the discrepancy that you see in the government's policies regarding people's grievances in each of the plants. And I'll give you the example of two plants. One is Sahiwal and the other is Angro's plant in Thar. If you look at Angro's plant, you will see a lot of media coverage. I'm not saying that that media coverage is always true or factful, but you see a lot of coverage that there is a foundation that has been set up through the CSR funds, corporate social responsibility funds, and that foundation does a lot of work on providing healthcare and other social services to the communities living around that Thar coal power plant. I'm not saying that those services are being provided to the satisfaction of the local people, or they are enough, or they should not be scaled up or things like that. But I'm saying that they have a formal mechanism in place in which corporate social responsibility funds are being transferred to a foundation, and that foundation is then working on some projects for people's welfare. But if you look at what is happening in Sahiwal, you'll find out that the arrangement is totally missing. There is an agreement between the government of Punjab and Sahiwal power plant that there'll be a CSR element from the plant. But if you look at that agreement, and I have a copy of that agreement I can share with all of you, it says the plant owners or plant sponsors will give money for CSR only if they never find any problem in their cash flows, if there are no disputes on payments or anything like that. So it was made conditional. As a result of that, the government of Punjab set up a CSR trust in Sahiwal. It appointed a couple of government officials on its own cost. The cost is being borne by the taxpayers, but it has zero funds. because there have been many problems with Saiwal power plant as far as the payments are concerned, and there have been many financial disputes between the government and the managers or the sponsors of the fund. So I think this is where the problem is. CSR should not have been conditional. The problem, the financial issue or the financial disputes, if there are any, are between the government and the plant owners or the plant sponsors. They're not between the plant sponsors and the people of the area. The people of the area lost their land. They have a serious risk of their environment being damaged. They have a serious risk of their water being damaged. And there is evidence about that. I'm not exaggerating or just trying to make a point about that. So they needed something in compensation of all of that. But the plant owners made it conditional with how the government will treat them. It should have been conditional how the people of the area, interact or act with them. And then the government itself diluted the entire agreement by saying that the plant can do corporate social responsibility work anywhere in Sahiwal division. And Sahiwal division, if you look at the length and breadth of it, it's like 70 kilometers long and like 30, 45 kilometers wide. And the plant is situated in a certain area, and you can see that the villages right next to it are really badly affected socially and economically. I've been there. You can see the bad impacts of the plant on the local economy. So if I am an MP or MNA with a lot of influence, and if perchance some funds materialize in that corporate social responsibility fund, I'll take it to my village, even if my village is like 50 kilometers away from Saiwal power plant. So these are the problems that are really at the heart of people's complaints. Now, if we go to Thar, there are two major companies that are operating there. One is, of course, Angro company, which is running a coal mine and then also a power plant in partnership with the government of Sindh. And then there is a Chinese company, Shanghai Electric. I do not know the exact name of the company, but it's something related to Shanghai Electric. Yeah. Yeah. So you, as I said earlier, you look at Angro and you will find out there is Citizen Foundation Thar Foundation, which is doing CSR work. But you will find nothing regarding the Chinese-run plant over there. And people have absolutely no access to the management of the company over there, because maybe there are security reasons, maybe there are other reasons. And people always say that, okay, Angro has massive problems, but at least they have an open door policy. We can go and talk to them. And then we have this very closed door policy when it comes to the Chinese run plant, and we cannot even access those who are running the plant. So yeah, so these are the problems. If these problems then continue to happen during our repurposing or phase down or phase out exercises, then I think people will always be not interested. We at the policy criticism level or at policy making and policy implementation level, we will keep patting ourselves or each other on the back on saying, okay, we rescued Pakistan from the capacity trap that it has found itself in by saying, okay, we have been successfully repurposing this plant or phasing out or phasing down that plant. But what about people? We cannot be sure that people will accept or people will be getting benefit from any of these changes unless these exceptions, these exemptions are like overcome and like a grand norm, a single kind of rule is set for every plant to follow or every power generation facility to follow, whether it is a coal power plant or a renewable energy power plant. So that's what my answer is.
Yeah.
Interview for an IBP soon after I graduated, and interview was being conducted by the board members, and they told me that this hiring of this MTO thing is part of our CSR activity. I mean, they are hiring people and they are including it in their CSR. This is the kind of seriousness that they have.
I do not want to go into a very negative and critical mode because we are having a wonderful conversation and
Otherwise, I'll have to.
I can go into, otherwise we will be having a conversation and, I do not want to go into those details, but I'll just highlight 2 points. One is that, okay, corporate social responsibility law or whatever rules or regulation, there is no law, there are just voluntary rules and regulation. The companies are not really mandated to follow this under the law. Because there is no law, it's voluntary. But why do you want to do this as a eye wash exercise? Don't do it. Okay, say we do not do it, we will not do it because it's not mandatory under the law. Don't bring it as an eye wash. I'll give you the example of Thar Foundation that I talked about earlier. Under their CSR fund, they put in journalists from Islamabad and Lahore into private jets. And those private jets land in Thar because Thar now has an airport. And those journalists stay there in their excellent 5-star guest houses. They eat fish in Thar's Registan. Thar ke desert mein wo machli khate hain. And then they come back and write excellent articles about the great work that these power plants are doing. And all of this is being done from their CSR funds. So I'll not go into great details, but this is how it is happening.
Just one. Again, on the CSR. I think the issue is, which Badr Saab has also highlighted, I always say that the SCCP and NEPRA should actually not leave these CSR regulations voluntary. Yeah. This should be legally binding and this should be mandatory. But the point is that not to dilute the importance of this subject of CSR and the community development. But again, the problem is this is not the IPPs only. This is the problem with the whole industrial sector across the board. The only thing is because IPPs is huge investment, so there are consumers, there are 50 million consumers which are affected, so that's why this is being highlighted. Yeah. But I think this is very critical that we need to make it mandatory, and it should be part of the law that what is the minimum amount of CSR they should be doing, and what are the venue where they can spend, not just traveling of the journalist and just making those. So I think that's very critical recommendation which should go to the government. Thank you.
Okay, a very small comment from my side on this point. I will look this into a very different perspective. CSR is very important, and always most of the policies, methods, models are coming from the West. So as you mentioned the word eye wash, they are using these kind of things, these kind of tactics to show their responsibility and build trust. So one thing is this, the trust is missing here, which is very important to be built here. In my opinion, the most important part contributing to CSR, I think, is this: to contribute to the local economy. CSR will be much more effective if you contribute to the local economy. Why? Because normally what happens, the moral hazard problem and the adverse selection problem in Pakistan, when you start some policy, other people take it for granted and then they started misusing, as you mentioned, that the journalists, they are going, or the local politicians, the small politician, they are running after this amount of money to give us, they are using it for different kind of things. So the main issue is not only with the CSR that the company should commit and it should be mandatory, but also like in the rules and regulation that where it should be spent. The most important part, as sir you mentioned, is within the vicinity, within the 5 to 10 kilometers of that area where the plant is located. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for highlighting the social implications and specifically highlighting that how government needs to move towards the multi-stakeholder approach to ensure the just transition. House is open for question answers. Please feel free to ask. We have our online participants too. So if anybody needs to. Yes, sir, why not?
Kamil Saab, aapse sawal hai. You just mentioned that there is a feasibility report about the conversion of Jamshoro plant that is probably already carried out, that feasibility has been completed already. Can you please give some more details about it, or is it confidential? Formal. But do you have any details about whether it is about the conversion of the 100% conversion, or is it like changing the blend from 20/80 to 60/40? Okay. 60/40 perhaps?
But I
Okay.
checked it, but they said that it's not a problem.
अच्छा, एक दूसरा सवाल ये कि you just mentioned कि 1.9 million AMI meters लग चुके हैं पाकिस्तान में, तो ये किसी एक खास एक डिस्को में लगे हैं और is it everywhere? सही. I'm sorry, मैं थोड़ा सा टाइम ज्यादा ले रहा हूँ. एक असनाद साहब आपसे सवाल है.
Whether sir इजाजत दें आपके दोनों questions पे, just two sentences on each question. The purpose and the mandate of the feasibility was actually to evaluate that whether this could be converted 100% to the local coal.
Okay.
So when the outcome is there, I think that the idea is to convert it to 100% local coal to save that.
But there are other scenarios that have also been.
Yeah. So the consultant has evaluated. This is the second exercise. First exercise was done by Fishner, I believe, and this is Dornier, which is doing the second study on AMI. So far the AMI which has been done, they are on 3-phase meters. Now PPIB is actually preparing to make for the single phase meters about 16-17 million meters. So they are preparing to call the public partnership mode bid for this, and IFC is actually assisting as advisor to PPIB. Thank you.
Talked about coal to clean transition. Can you please explain how it would be different from phase down or phase out? Phase down or phase out? Yeah.
फेज आउट या रिटायर के कंडीशन में आ जाएं तो वो शायद शाहजहां साहब भी इस पे इत्तेफाक करेंगे, बाकी साथी भी, कि ये मुमकिन नहीं होगा बाय आउट करना, उसको रिटायर करना. और वो भी जितने यंग ये इस वक्त प्लांट लगे हुए हैं, तो वो जो कंडीशन है यहाँ पे कि किसी तरीके से ट्रांजिशन की जाए इसको एक ऐसे कंडीशन में कि जो एनर्जी में इस वक्त बड़ी जो चेंजेस आ रही है, रिवोल्यूशनरी चेंजेस, वो यहाँ पे हम इंट्रोड्यूस करें, उसकी बिजनेस को यहाँ पे इन्वॉल्व करें. और साथ में ये कि अगर फर्ज करें वो चीज़ें नहीं भी हो रही है तो इसको एज ए रिजर्व के तौर पे रखें. साथ में अभी कामिल साहब ने एक बात कही है और शाहजहां साहब ने कहा जी 100% लोकल कोल पे हमारे साथ सिर्फ मसला एक एनवायरनमेंट का या इनकी कैपेसिटी पेमेंट का ये भी नहीं है, बल्कि जो कोल पावर प्लांट्स हमने लगाए हैं उनके लिए कोल को हम इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं. हमारे पास फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व का बड़ा ही मसला है, उसको हम नहीं कर सकते. थर्मल पे, कोल पे, इन चीज़ों से हम थोड़ा चाहते हैं कि जी आए, तो इसको हम गैसिफिकेशन पे, इसको हम लोकल फर्टिलाइजर, जिस तरह तर में अगर जो हमारे फर्टिलाइजर कंपनीज हैं उनको सपोर्ट करने के लिए, तो ये फेज आउट का जो एक ट्रांजिशन है ना, बहुत सारे ऐसे ऑप्शंस मौजूद हैं कि फेज आउट के बजाय बिजनेस को कंटिन्यू रखा जाए, जो विन विन का पॉइंट है उसको जारी रखा जाए और नए आइडियाज के साथ इसको देखा जाए. सिर्फ शर्त ये है कि हैप्पीजर्ली ना हो, लॉन्ग टर्म को पर्सपेक्टिव में रखते हुए इन चीज़ों को किया जाए. क्योंकि बार बार जब आप इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे जाके रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं, उसकी आपकी ट्रस्ट, उसकी आपकी स्टेटस, उसकी आपकी नेगोशिएशन और सारी पोजीशन बिजनेस मुतासिर होते हैं. सर थैंक यू.
3.2 would be the overall saving, but the foreign exchange savings will be around $2.11 billion.
थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे शायद बात हो रही, एक और चीज़ है जो नए बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज है ना, इसमें जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज एम्प्लॉयमेंट और हम अप स्किल जिस तरह आपने बात की पूरे एक इंडस्ट्रियल स्ट्रक्चर को यहाँ पे लाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। CPEC 2 में इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट और एनर्जी सेक्टर में इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन क्योंकि फ्यूचर ही उसका है, CBM का, यूरोप से जो मामला है, कार्बन टैक्सिंग का है, हमने इन तमाम तर चीज़ों को इफेक्टिवली हल करना है। ये लोकल जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ हमारे जो एनर्जी के मसाइल हैं, हमारे एक्सपोर्ट में जो कार्बन टैक्सिंग के मसाइल हैं, तो उसको जो ट्रांजिशन है ये तमाम को हल करेगा। प्लीज
Anyone from the audience, please? Yeah. Yeah, please. Sure.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Muhammad Umar Farooq from Islamabad. I am cybersecurity engineer by profession and working as a power security specialist. Yesterday I have attended the orientation here and I have come to know about this institution and explored further about this institute. So I appreciate this institute for their visionary initiatives in the highly important sectors of Pakistan, like energy sector, economy, etc. So I have a question related to energy sector. The Pakistan has experienced repeated cycles of energy crisis, highly dependence on the imported energy sources like coal, oil and gas, etc., like LNG. According to the trade map of statistics in the trade map of the year 2025, Pakistan has imported $0.79 billion worth of coal in 2025. So as we are talking about the phasing out the coal power plant, which is the source of energy. So I have a question about this, that have the policymakers any plan about balancing the phasing out of coal power plant with the objectives of highly important objectives of supply, security, reliability, and supply of electricity? Any plan about the balancing out this phasing out of coal power plant, or or the accelerated accelerated phasing out of coal power plant may cause increase the reliance on the import of the power sources like LNG, etc.
Thank you very much for your question. I think that's a very important one because the coal power plant, when we started, why we started? Because there was a capacity problem. We did not have sufficient electricity, energy, and all these things. So now when we have overcapacity, the problem is not of generation. I think the problem now is of management, of proper management of all these resources. So when we are going to phase out, either going for phase out, which the word I mentioned a number of times, I'm not in favor of this. If you go for transition, so transition will be in a smooth way. It will not be haphazard. Why? Because suddenly if you withdraw a huge part of the production, energy production, so that will create a supply constraint and will create a panic in the Pakistani market, which is on the margin. So there's a very good point, very good question. Therefore, we are talking whenever policymakers, they sit together, they should look how to do this. It will not be like overnight they will shut down those things, those places. But keep in mind now they are idle. We are making capacity payment on the basis of without producing anything. So in that shape, they are not contributing to the system. So then if you phase them out or you transit from there, that will be easy. I think that will not be a problem.
I'm not a
Thank you, sir.
policymaker, but I would like to add a few sentences to that. The problem in Pakistan's policy making and policy implementation is, and I'm really sorry if if you do not accept that or do not like that, but this is a reality. And I'm not the original author of this idea. I also must say I'm borrowing this idea from Dr. Khalid Walid. In addressing the capacity crisis, we created a financial crisis of circular debt and like capacity payments. And in trying to address this capacity payment and circular debt crisis, now we are in the process of creating stranded assets. So in order to get out of one crisis, we did something, and that something resulted in another crisis. So we've been basically lurching from one crisis to another crisis. That is the major problem in policy making and policy implementation in Pakistan. Maybe it's because we have a political system in which policies change every 3 or 4 years and there is no consistency. Maybe because of that. Maybe because our policy makers they can't see beyond 5-year terms of a government or 10 years horizon. They can't see into 15 years, 20 years, 30 years kind of horizon, saying and believing that this is the horizon that we want. So policy making is like moving around in a circle. Everybody knew, or everybody should have known in 2013 that the kind of RLNG based and coal based power plants that we are setting up on imports, it will one day bite us because all our imports will be in dollars. And all our agreements are also dollar based. In a country where dollars are always in short supply, we made all these agreements, and as a result of that, we found ourselves in a circular debt and capacity payment bind. So that I think is a big lesson for policymakers to have learned, and then moved forward with that lesson at the back of their mind. The unfortunate thing is that while people like Shahjahan Mirza and Asnad Sahab se aaj meri pehli mulaqat hui hai, they make a lot of sense when they talk. And I am very sure that when they talk within the policy circles, they do the same thing, talking with a lot of sense and making their argument with a lot of evidence. But at the end of the day, the decisions that get made are not the decision or the conversation that we hear people like you from, like during the conversations like this. So what happens? I'm not sure what happens at the end of the day, how the policies get made with which even people like you would not agree with.
मैं थोड़ा सा अगर इजाजत दें, before I just like to give context to this whole discussion. That's my favorite subject actually. I'll just take 2 minutes. Basically, hindsight is always 20/20. Okay, when we do post-event analysis, we always get that this was wrong. So I'm not saying everything was done correct, but if we look at your concern is very valid that we should learn lesson from the previous mistakes and what we have done, and we should move forward. But while we're learning lessons, we need to see what were the facts at that time when these decisions were being taken. You remember in Islamabad in 2013 and 14, we were experiencing 12-hour load shedding, even in the posh areas of F7 and F6. So that was the convention under which government started this. Second thing, I'll be very brief. Second thing, when we're doing this coal projects as a policy, as a government, Pakistan has a zero coal generation. And our neighbor has 60% coal generation, someone has 40% coal generation, even Germany has 45% coal generation, and UK and so on and so forth. So at that time, the idea was that this is a dirty fuel. We have zero coal generation. So this is going to be dirt cheap. So our fiscal pressure and our economic condition, our financial condition, this is the ideal fuel because we need the baseload power generation. This is going to the cheapest fuel but when the events unfold, Ukraine war, we saw the fuel which was $60 per ton, which went up to $420, $450 per ton. Second thing. Third thing, I think when we make the policy, we are generally very ambitious. And policy has many, I would say, many arms, many directions. So the policy was not just put in the power plants under the CPEC or put in or remove the load shedding. The policy was actually to bring in a whole plan for development of the economy of the Pakistan. So what I always say, you remember that in 2013-14, we started planning 9 SEZ, Special Economic Zone. And unfortunately, none of them is functional now. Our industrial consumption of power has gone down. So what I say, basically, the power sector and the PPIB and the institution within the power sector, they actually delivered. We were given a target of bringing in generation. We brought that generation. But again, maybe NEPRA has gone wrong in terms of setting the tariff, where that was the right tariff, that was expensive tariff, but we delivered. But look at around all those stakeholders which were need to perform to bring in the demand for this electricity, which we were saying that the GDP growth will be 5%, the industrial growth will be 6%, and there will be 9 special economic zones. Chinese industries will be relocating to Pakistan. So nothing has happened. So no other arm of the government has actually been able to do much in terms of bringing in demand for this electricity. So I think that's the fundamental fact which we need to do. Mean policy, obviously there are mistakes in the policies also, but in my understanding, we always basically deficit in terms of implementing the policies. That is our main goal. And again, why? In my analysis, that is because our all government ministries, department operates in silos. So we don't talk to each other, we don't complement and supplement each other efforts. I think that's the lesson we need to learn that whenever we make a policy, first at the policy making level, as you are saying, there will be input from all the stakeholders, including the local people, the communities, and the government departments and the think tanks, everyone. And then when this policy is made, somebody should be strictly monitoring that what is happening, why this is not being implemented, why these targets are not being achieved. So even though it is happening, we criticize that the power sector has done this thing, power sector has bring in overcapacity, have expensive, but nobody is asking those institutions which have not delivered. So unfortunately, our government system, I've spent about 30 years in this system. So our government system is geared up and incentivized not doing anything. If you don't do anything, nobody is there in the government to ask you that why do you have not done your work, you have not delivered to your target. But if you do something, there are 10 institutions and there are journalists that this could have been done this way, this could have been done this way. So I think that's the fundamental thing which we need to make actually correct in the system. First, that there should be coordinated policy making, coordinated implementation, and second, I think that there should be target-oriented approach, which government is doing to some extent now. But I think there's still not need to be done. That if the targets are not being met, there should be periodic review, and these targets could be revised. That what has gone wrong? Have we made some mistake? So that effort is not being done. So our general trend in the government is that if one target is not achieved, one thing is not delivered, we just forget them and we start something new initiative without thinking, without analyzing that what is the lesson, why this was gone. So I think that's the little thing.
Sir, can I?
The perspective.
My question is basically.
Please be very brief because
Yeah, sure.
we are short of time.
So, Sir Janzib, you mentioned the transition credit, the idea of transition credit. So how that idea can be materialized or institutionalized to incentivize the Chinese investors, whether they be from the government or from the private sector, to transition towards clean energy from coal-based power projects. How that idea could be materialized and institutionalized?
I think the short answer is what Dr. Nath said actually. I read it different way when Dr. Nath said that coal to clean energy. So we are not talking about phase down of coal. We are talking about phase out of coal. We are not talking about the repurposing of coal. We are presenting as a business opportunity, that this is a business opportunity. So there was 15 years back, 12 years back, there was a business opportunity to set up the coal power plant. Now the world has changed, the situation has changed, dynamics have changed. Now this is a business opportunity to convert these coal plants to clean energy, in which we can create sort of business opportunity for these investors who are already in the coal plants. So we can actually bring them to bring in the renewable energy. In lieu of that, we can actually give them some other business which can actually help in terms of making this clean transition.
In the interest of time, I would quickly request Ms. Zainab Babar to formally conclude the session. Please, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone, for such an interesting discussion. I really like the idea of having a joint working group that will be kind of a platform to have discuss effectively what they think and how can we kind of find a way that is workable for everyone, and kind of that links with the Shahjahan Saab's idea of having a win-win case, not only for Pakistan, but for China as well. And Kamal Saab rightly mentioned that we should not only focus on some certain options of renegotiations, and we should also explore other options of VPPs. Thanks for highlighting that AMIs are already being installed and sharing the facts with us. Thank you, Badr Saab, for mentioning the social aspects and the on-ground realities that the people there are living there are facing currently. I would like to thank the audience that have joined us online. Sorry we could not take the online questions due to the interest of time, but thank you so much for joining us, who have joined us in person. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, everyone. You may join us for the lunch. And after the lunch, the session will restart around 1:50. And please do join us for that as well. Thank you.